Hi, and welcome to the Starseed Kitchen podcast. I'm your host, Chef Whitney Aronoff, founder of Starseed Kitchen and High Vibration Foods. This is your source for information to empower you to be a positive seed for change in your community. Join me for conversations where we learn about food, wellness, and spiritual concepts for high vibration living. I will be sharing my knowledge and learning along with you from experts providing insight into nourishing all the layers of you, the physical, emotional, spiritual, and etheric bodies, so you can thrive in 5D. Let's get started. So today I'm excited to have on the Starseed Kitchen podcast, Jennifer Espositio. Jennifer Espositio is the founder and CEO of DIsolana skincare. Early in her career, Jennifer worked closely with passionate and uncompromising producers of natural consumer products and was always fascinated by the relentless pursuit for quality. She used this experience to create the DIsolana skincare line to promote healthy and natural choices for women. Jennifer graduated from the Parsons School of Design in New York City. She has held senior level roles in vintage wine, fashion, and interior design. She has worked and lived in New York, Aspen, Los Angeles, Hong Kong, and has frequented and traveled to Italy many, many times. Her passion for design, culture, and wellness led her to begin DIsolana Skincare, sharing the sacred thermal waters that make her feel so good with women around the world. Jennifer can now combine her creativity with her desire to make women feel beautiful in her own line through DIsolana Skincare. Well, Jen, welcome to the Starseed Kitchen podcast.
Thanks. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here and for more people to learn about your beautiful skincare line and the island of Ischia in Italy, where you were so inspired to make this product.
Absolutely. I'm excited to share with everyone. Yeah, kind of promote it a little bit, the island and the history and the love that I have for it ultimately.
Yeah, you have such a unique background, business-wise, but a unique background family-wise with your connection to that area. And
absolutely,
it's kind of amazing how this opportunity ended up in your hands with the chance to share these thermal waters and the clay with people in the United States. It's kind of, it's very divine and really amazing. And you're such a wonderful person to be able to do it and kind of share this island with us.
Thank you. Yeah, it is something that has inspired me and, ultimately has been able to connect, myself, my family, my culture, all together. And, in the same way that, it's been able to bring to others what I've been able to find. So I'm excited to share it.
Can you share a little bit about your family background and your connection to Italy and Ischia?
Absolutely. So I came about the, not only discovering the island myself, but traveling through my father. So my family is from Italy, from Naples. And, it came, I've been to Naples many a times throughout my life. And we decided to take a family vacation. This was about, I would say 4 years ago. And in planning the trip, the goal was to kind of do something different, see something new, along with, seeing family and friends. And thus came about traveling to the island of Ischia. And the connection to my family that's so beautiful is that my father and his family would vacation on this island in the summer while he was growing up and, prior to him moving to the US. And so he had, extremely fond memories and love for this island and wanted to kind of share it, with us. He hadn't been back in years as well. So, we decided to take this trip and, it's right off the coast of Naples. So it's a quick little ferry ride over, about an hour. So we got there, to just vacation. It was simply there to, lay on the beaches and take in, the water and the sunlight and everything that it has to offer. And it was one of those immediate things that I was introduced to, and that was these thermal waters. And I was told from the moment I got on the island, if you have to check them out. This is ultimately what we're known for. And to my great surprise, gave me something to kind of dive into. It's not something I had really explored prior to this. I've done use thermal waters in different ways, but I've never kind of done it in this way. And so from that point forward, the vacation kind of really turned into this spa, mind, body, and health trip, which, I was very much excited about. And so, yeah, from that point forward, it's been part of my life, this island, and trying to get back there as often as possible, to, enjoy it, but most importantly, to kind of spread, what it has to offer to others. So that's how it came about, all, bringing it back to family and history.
So when you go to Ischia, how do you take advantage of the thermal waters there? Like, where, if one was to go, how do you even find them?
So they are spread throughout the entire island. There's a few ways to do it. The majority of the hotels on the island have their own spring, water that they bring up from, underground into, which you're able to take advantage of through their pools or through their therapies. There's also obviously ones that you can, get on a boat, a little boat, and, get right to. And then there are the thermal water parks, two of which are pretty, that are known for. And you can go, they've got vast amount of different opportunities, from, waterfalls to pools to massage therapy areas. And, it's probably the best way, I would say, if you want to try to get it all in, if it's a short amount of time, just because, there's so many opportunities for different temperatures and different, ways to use the water. So really it's a wellness, theme park, I guess you could say, ultimately, to go spend, multiple days, or, if you have one day, it's great too. But it really gives you an opportunity to, use all of it as best as it can. So there's several throughout the island. And so, yeah, whether you want to just, use one that's, on the ocean, or go to a park, or most likely the hotel that you're staying in has its own access to the springs as well, to the water.
Are there any family residences that have their own private springs?
There are some. Mostly it's, dug through the homes from underground. And so they're able to use the water themselves. I mean, those that, live on the island, obviously, want it a part of their daily lives as much as they possibly can, because, the benefits and what they've seen throughout the years is just the purest form. So yes, they do that as well.
That's awesome. So what inspired you to create a skincare line that uses the thermal waters?
So, this project came about, not only in a time in which I was, searching for, something to help myself. I had struggled with my skin, I would say, leading up to that for probably close to 10 years, I want to say, having had an autoimmune issue. It slowly came out through my skin, and I was trying to address it. In addition to that, I was living a very, high stress life. And so, it came about at a time when I was searching and was unable to find anything that would work. And was not finding any success in any products that were, on the market at the time. And I had always, looked and searched for things that were rooted in, the past and natural remedies to a degree, because, having grown up with European background, it's kind of how you always went to search for first. And I was unable to find anything while in the US. And so, once I got on this island, I have to say I was a little hesitant, to be honest, just because with my skin, which is very reactive, I was a bit nervous. Nothing had worked up into that point. Would this make it worse? Would it make it better? I was unsure. And so, I was lucky enough that the first few that I went to, I had no reaction. I had, the opposite of that. My inflammation went down, not only with my face, but throughout my body. And I could start seeing, slow and immediate, turns in my health at that point. And so it was, such a positive experience for me, and something that I needed for myself ultimately. It was something that I was, looking to bring back with me. And so that's how this kind of came about, was me needing it and wanting it, and then realizing that there was so much beauty in it, and so much, wellness that was surrounding this island and this experience, that I wanted to bring it, to others. And relieve the kind of stress of, troubled skin. I think that, I was looking for, something that could help heal, as well as, not only, on the outside, but ultimately in the inside. And it gave me this, sense of bringing it back to nature, into, the earth, and I could really connect with it on that level. So, it was important for me to, share it with others. Ultimately.
I have to say, I've used 2 of your masks, and they're super hydrating and calming and soothing. I've really enjoyed your products. They made me feel really good.
That's awesome.
And it's like my dream to go to India and to get there and have the experiences that you've had there. Like there's, my body physically just wants to go and sit in those pools and allow my nervous system to calm down. But in the meantime, I at least get to take advantage with your masks. So I'm really thankful.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Well, what's really unique is with your product, the source of your product, and you share that with the customer, and then the customer can additionally do their own research and find out more about the island and where it's coming from. And it's really unique to be able to buy a clay mask and know where the clay is coming from and the water that's in it, and kind of know the intention behind it. So I think that's really unique, and it's why I wanted to share you and your information with the Starseed Kitchen community, because that's so unique for food, let alone skincare.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, it was, I think something that's really great about the product line, and what I was able to do was, in the beginning of the project, it was important to me to find the correct spring that would work for the line that I wanted to create. So, the island has, close between like 90 to 95 different springs. So they're categorized in 2 different ways. One that is, high in salt, and those are those thermal pools that are on the ocean. So they interact with the salt water, and those are fantastic. I was looking for something that, didn't necessarily have that level of salt in it, just for, the benefit of, skin, hair, and beauty products that I was looking to develop. And so I was lucky enough to be introduced and spent a lot of time at one particular spring. And this spring is one that is rooted in a lot of history, and is something that is full of, I think not only the history of the island, but the history of, the past and the way that we used the water to help heal. And so I, worked in order to get exclusivity to this one particular spring. That was important to me. And the benefit of, the mineral content in this particular spring, was going to then be able to deliver the highest level of, healing that possible. And so, yeah, ultimately, finding the correct spring for what, you need it to work for was really important to me. And so I was, lucky enough to find one that was really rich in bicarbonate and, mixture of different minerals, that would really help in the natural washing away of layers of dead skin, leaving, the skin as clean and smooth as possible. And, it ultimately has been used successfully in, different skin problems, and most effective was dermatitis, eczema, acne and psoriasis. So that was important to me because I think, ultimately I didn't just want, a skincare line that would, just look pretty. I wanted it to really ultimately heal and, have a positive effect on those using it.
So you mentioned the history of the spring that you source your water from. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and how long people have been, I guess, flocking to that spring for healing?
Yeah. So, so Ischia, dating back about 700 BC, Ischia was first settled, by the Greeks. And the island is a naturally volcanic island with a lot of, activity happening. And, throughout the, archaeological digs and history that's been done on it, the Greeks were the very first people to live on the island, the first to use the thermal water to treat, and it was ultimately used to treat the wounds injured from the different soldiers from returning from war. They found that, there was a great amount of benefit to the water in healing these wounds. And so it was highly, revered for the power that it, had. And, due to that there was temples and votives dedicated to the different gods, such as Apollo, in order to honor. And, the Greeks, they mention, the spring that I particularly use, which is, the name of it is Nitrodi. And, the spring, the name of it, the, medicinal uses of it, and love for it, has been noted in different poetry and, lores throughout time. And, with sacred water to Apollo and the nymphs. And, while they saw the healing effects of it on their bodies, they weren't able to explain it at the time as to, why and how. So that kind of became, important to find out and to do studies on it and so forth. But, it really became, a very spiritual place. And, this belief that, the connection between the water, the healing powers of the water, and the magical forces that the gifts from the gods would ultimately give, would help kind of cure and heal those. So, and they believed that, a healthy body, as opposed to an unhealthy one, was going to better able to have a spiritual connection with the gods. And so their, focus into, being healthy and healing and using it as medicine was very important to them. And so, from that point, it was important for them to find out kind of what components of the thermal water, what were the components of the thermal water to allow the healing of all these ailments in order to keep the body, as youthful as possible. And so, yeah, I mean, the island is, one that is known as the fountain of youth is how it's kind of referred to. And so, yeah, there's, it's really kind of rooted in the history of, the springs and what they've been able to give to others, and that's ultimately, health and wellness.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the people were so much more involved than our history books give them credit for, especially the fact that they knew that you had to maintain a healthy body in order to have a connection with your higher self and beyond, and obviously that's something that's talked about all the time today. If you're physically clean and clear, you can be a clear channel to receive the messages that you need to live your best life, and you have clarity of thought and mind. That's very interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think it's, something that I, immediately connected with. And, again, bringing it back to, the sources of and those that first found, the connections and the healing and the benefits to different things, there's so much in that. And, for me, there's so much in the past that still hasn't been, brought to the surface and really utilized. And so, connecting not only the history and, what they were able to understand and find, but, this ability to use all the natural surroundings that this island, is able to give is, so fantastic. And, the vegetation on the island is huge. And so really connecting with all of these elements, I think, and putting them all together and realizing that and using the water at the same time, using the plants next to them and, creating this really tranquil environment at the same time, allowed them to, really heal. And, my goal is not only, to show that, yes, you can heal the outside, but, being able to heal from the inside out is really what allows that to happen fully. And so, yeah, they were able to, encompass that all there. So they really found, I think, the true, components that really work together.
So when you're on the island, what are your favorite things to eat there? What are the foods on the island that are maybe local or that make you feel good?
So I am huge with seafood. I think that's what I only gravitate towards the most. I'm huge. Fish is, any kind of seafood ultimately is, I can't say no to. So I gravitate really towards the local, what they've been able to catch that day. It varies throughout. But the signature dish on the island is rabbit. And so that's, and they, the rabbit really reflects the island's kind of rural farming history more authentically than, there is the limited fishing side of it. And so, but, like most of Italy, the food is local and, what's in season, is important. So that's kind of based on when you go and what's available at the time is, how you're gonna be able to enjoy it. So
what's your favorite time of year on the island?
I would have to say for me, it's, right after Easter, I would say. So like April, May.
Yeah.
Right before the heat kind of hits of the summer, before the tourism gets too high. I like that calmness right before. So I would say May, into June is probably like my favorite time. You're kind of getting yourself ready for the summer and it's not too chaotic. So you're able to enjoy it at a bit of a slower pace. And most of the most of the parks and the, with the thermal springs and stuff don't really open until that point. I would say into
Oh,
like
wow.
April or so,
Yeah.
just to be able to enjoy them fully, weather-wise, and to get into the, into the waters. But, I would say right before the depths of the heat kind of hit of summer is my ideal time to go.
Well, as people continue to kind of learn more about building a healthy lifestyle for themselves and really personalizing it, why do you think people need to become aware that their beauty products need to incorporate that consciousness that they consider for the food that they consume as well?
I think it's all encompassing. I think that what you use, day to day, and, majority of us get up and the first thing we do is wash our face, and that kind of starts our day. And so I think that the products that we use from the minute we wake up until, we go back to sleep that night, have an impact on not only, our physical, but, our mental, mind, body, mind and spirit as well. If you're able to kind of get up and know that the products that you're using, are one that where they've come from, and how they were created. It also is able to kind of calm your system a bit. You wake up and levels are high and you're ready to start the day, and you're able to kind of take a moment from the start, and be able to know that what you're using will not harm you. I think it gives you a bit of calm to start. And I think that, if you're unable to do it in every area of your life, then, to start with one, area, and make sure that you kind of know what you're using, that's your, beauty routine or your household products or so forth. It allows you to kind of slowly start understanding what's a part of every product.
What's your favorite DIsolana skincare product to use right now?
Right now, I would have to say, we're at this point of kind of changing of temperatures and weather. And yeah. I'm right now based in Arizona. So it's a little crazy here with days still in the 90s and then some in the 60s. And it's kind of throwing, everybody all over the place. But, keeping my face, keeping my skin in general really hydrated and moisturized is really important as kind of the seasons begin to change. And so really my focus and favorites are, the moisturizer and the serum. And, I think I hold the gold mask as my top at all times throughout the year. But yeah, I mean, keeping my skin as moisturized as possible because, the weather right now is a little all over the place. But, as we, go to transition, I think the focus on, making sure your skin is moisturized as possible is important.
The gold mask is my favorite too. So thank you. Thank you for making that.
No, thank you.
Well, where can our listeners learn more about you and your product, DIsolana Skincare?
So right now, our website has all of our content, available. And, we try to be as transparent, share as much as we can, and continuously, update it. And so, yeah, everything is located on DIsolana.com. And, as well as our social media, which is at DIsolana Skincare. We update on different kind of tips and, not only for skincare, but for, mind, body, and soul too.
And this is a question that I ask everyone that comes on our podcast at the end. Can you leave our listeners with one healthy tip they can consider adding into their life to improve their well-being?
Oh, that's a good one. There's so many little tidbits that I think I've, introduced into my life over the last few years that have had such great benefits. I think one of my favorite things is dry brushing in the morning. I think, it helps, with my lymphatic system. And I think that it's, something that not many put focus on. And I think it really, kind of able to, reinvigorate your skin as well. And, I think starting your day and ending it with, a dry brush is something that, can, bring such, for me, it just ultimately helps with my, routine and my day-to-day activities. So I think it's a great addition to any routine.
I enjoy it too. I try to do it about 3 days a week. How about you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, about 3 days during the week, especially if it's a busy week.
Yeah.
I try to make it, a big part of my routine throughout the week. So yeah.
Yeah, I just leave the brush out in my bathroom in a spot where I can see it. So that way when I wake up in the morning, it's something that I do. And it's nice because then I know at the end of a long work day, I've at least done something nice for my physical body. Whereas the rest of the day has been so focused on everybody else and everything else. It's nice to know that you do one thing for yourself or in your body.
I agree. It's something that, it doesn't take a long amount of time, but you're able to kind of really focus and, exactly, do something for you throughout the day that, is so filled and, busy and chaotic.
Yes.
Most times. I agree.
Well, thank you so much for joining me for the podcast today and sharing more information about your skincare line and talking to us about Ischia, Italy. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right, until next time.